All right. So today we'll talk about zero-click ads. First off, can you give a quick introduction to the concept of zero-click ads?
Yeah, for sure. The concept of zero click ads is really that you use the platform at its full capacity. I would say most of the platforms where you buy ads on, they don't really want people to leave the platform, right? Because if people stay on the platform, they make more money. There are a few platforms that are more okay with it. You can think of Quora, Reddit, Pinterest is pretty okay with it. But most of the other platforms are not really okay with it. And what you see that mostly in the organic posts is where when you start adding links to your post, they take away most of the reach, right? And on the other end, you have the people itself that are just scrolling on their social media feed. And they of course also don't really want to leave the platform, right? Because they are there for a reason. They just want to see what their friends are updating, or they're looking at uh, anything they can learn or whatever. They don't per se want to click to a website and sign up for something, or get involved on a webinar, or they're just doing something completely different. So the concept of zero click advertising is really that you don't focus on leading them away, right? You really focus on educating them or entertaining them at that exact point. So instead of making a very short copy or a very direct response video or image where you try to get them to click to a website and convert, you just focus on the post itself, and you really try to educate them or entertain, one of the two. We mostly focus on educating them, because that just works better for us. And I guess the big difference is where you see, for example, ads that say, now click here and sign up for this free webinar, right? That is definitely not zero click. Or where you have like a 7-minute value add video where you, for example, have part of the webinar already on the platform. So you just educate them there. And instead of trying to let them make a decision, where you just keep them on the platform, and you work in their favor, and you work in the platform's favor.
All right. So it's very clear that the incentives are there. Can you elaborate a bit more on the advantages and challenges of zero-click ads?
I guess the advantage is that you will have way lower costs to reach a larger audience, because you are not pulling them away from the platform. So you can use different campaign goals. You can really focus on keeping them on the platform, and in general, that is more affordable. So you can reach way more people for the same budget. Another advantage is that people are in their element. So if you are able to just educate them on the platform and they stick to the content, then that is always a good thing, because you will be on top of mind. They have seen your video, they have read your copy. So they will be top of mind, and you can do that several times till they just say, okay, this is very interesting. Let me just Google this brand, or let me Google this academy or this training institute, and let me figure out what's up, instead of us trying to push them there. Right. So I think those are the most important elements, is that you can really bring down the cost in reaching a larger group of audiences. The difficult part, though, is that your content needs to be really on point, right? And that's always tricky. You never truly know what resonates. So what we usually tend to do is use the content that works very well organically already, and then just amplify that with paid ads, right? So that is what we tend to do, because we kind of know it works already. We know people are interested in the topic, and then we just use paid ads to accelerate that process and get it in front of more people. The downside is that the copy and the video needs to be really on point. It needs to resonate, because if you don't have that, then you're just pushing budget to it, and you don't really know if it works. Then the time period between you understanding that the content doesn't really work and figuring that out comes way later, because there's not a direct response element to it. So the safest bet is having an organic audience, then using the content that works organically, amplifying that, because you just know that works, and then you can, with more confidence, you can put more budget to it. So that would be the downside, and the solution to it.
Got it. Okay. So quality, making sure it really resonates with the audience. It's pretty macro still, right? So if we have to really zoom in, like to the specifics, what are like really do's and don'ts when implementing zero click ads?
Yeah, I guess the first step that you should always take in every marketing campaign, really, but it's a step that most people don't take, is that you truly need to understand your audience, right? So you need to have done your research. You need to ideally have spoken with several of your buyers, so you truly understand their needs, challenges, blah blah blah. And then the next step would be is that you create content that is not what everyone else is doing in the market, that is truly unique and that really helps them in a short time frame. And if you have those elements, so you truly understand them and you create content that truly resonates, then you have a good combination of how you can work with content for zero click. Because that combination should usually work. And then, of course, you can look at uh, a click-through rate. Still, you can look at the video watch rate. So, how long do people stick to the content itself? How many people that see the ad click on the read more? And if you, those are still the metrics that you can check if people are engaged with your content. So from a more micro standpoint, do your research, create content that resonates, make it unique, make it not me too, and then look at the metrics that matter, and that are not like visitors to the website or conversion rates, but way more engagement with the content itself.
For your niche in particular, are there like any specific upsides, downsides to it?
I mean, the big downside is that everyone always wants results quick, right? So if you look at, for example, marketing manager at an e-learning provider, their managers are always looking to uh, the data, right? How many conversions do we have? How many leads do we have? Why do we have less leads than last week? Why is this CPA? Why did the CPA increase? So the biggest difficulty that we see, but also the teams that we work with, is that there is always the pressure from management founders to drive results. Right? There's not really time to share a brand story and to educate people over a longer period of time, because those are not directly reflecting in results, conversions. So in order to tackle that, you need to believe in your content strategy and that it truly resonates. And then over time, you will be able to show the data. So that would be the biggest downside, that there's usually just no time and there's always pressure. The big upside for me is that you are able to reach way more people. You're really able to educate and entertain them at the place they like to be. You don't distract them. It's way more positive advertising, right? So people also get less annoyed with you. So you potentially, where now only a set of your audience is resonating with it because it's a direct response, you will be able to drive a broader audience, really, because you also reach the people that are a bit sick and tired of the direct response advertising. Another one I could say is that because you are way more educating and you're building a brand, overall, the cost per acquisition should get lower, right? So if you take the right steps, then overall, the overall cost should be lower. The question is, do you get the time to get to that point?
All right, so that's a pretty compelling story. If you look at the curve, like where do you think we are right now? Do you feel this is something that we'll see way more of in the short term? Maybe it will take a year. What do you believe the future holds when it comes to zero click ads?
Yeah, I mean, there's a clear movement towards that point already. Attribution is getting tougher. Privacy laws are implemented everywhere around the globe. That will just get stricter, which kind of means that at one point you potentially cannot even see conversions anymore. And then the next part is, of course, that the people are more into that, right? So if you look at what is really booming now within marketing, is really the creator industry, like the creator economy, working with creators to boost your brand. it's all very native. It's all very on the platform itself. There's not even a link normally, right? So yeah, it's already changing a lot. I do think that we will see very quick moves into this direction as well, just because it's already happening. The platforms want it, and the people want it, and that together, of course, will make that decision almost automatically. So it's the privacy laws. It's what the people want. It's just more natural, more native, and what we have seen over and over and over and over again. And kind of 90% of the campaigns that we do is that native always wins, just because people resonate way better with it.
Okay. I think you also raise a different interesting point, which just making a little bridge here. Um, you mentioned privacy laws, right? And I think this is a pretty big topic, especially when it comes to Meta. So it keeps getting more difficult to link the money that goes into these ads, the Meta ads, and what you get out of it.
Yeah.
Um, if we're talking about the future, how do you see that future? Do you feel this is something that will make a very large impact very soon, or do you feel, yeah? What are your thoughts on it?
I, I mean, marketers will always find ways to reach their audiences. I also think that the platforms will still find ways to show the people the the right ads. The difficulty right now is that they have too much data and too much private data, and I do think it's good to limit that in a way. I don't think it's good if they limit it in a way that all the ads are not going to be relevant, right? You see on the platforms that are a little bit uh, less effective, right? It's kind of how it is there. And then you need to optimize way more like manually. So you just exclude sources, etc., etc. So I think if they keep a good balance between relevancy and privacy, that would be ideal. And I also think that is very possible, because like for the consumer, it's always better if the ads are relevant. However, it should not go to a point where it hears that you talk with your friend about being pregnant, for example, and then 1 minute later you start seeing pregnancy tests on your newsfeed. It shouldn't be like that. So I think there should be some kind of privacy involved. However, it's also very important that ads stay relevant, because non-relevant ads are just the most annoying thing out there, right? So
Yeah, it's, and
yeah, that's my take on it.
yeah, it's about finding the sweet spot, like between
Yes,
privacy.
I understand. I say this from an advertising standpoint, right? Because
I
for
think
us, obvious is way better. Yeah.
I think people watching this might think you're a bit biased. Just if
Yes,
I,
and I am, and I am, I am, and
yeah,
and of course, if I look at myself, um, then I don't mind ads at all, right? For example, I have a YouTube family subscription, but I don't use it because I still want to see the ads, so I'm 100% biased. But I do also talk with my friends and ask them what they find of it, and of course, I think some people just don't want any ads, right? Um, I think at one point we do see platforms go way more towards a direction where you can either pay to have an ad-free environment, right? And then they can still
yeah,
get
Meta
their
TV,
revenues.
yeah,
Yeah, Meta, Instagram is working on that. Twitter is working on that. They have implemented that, like, uh, not fully yet, but yes, it is in place. So I do think that there will be a play there, and then you will just find different ways to find these people, right? You could potentially see a more traditional way of marketing. Um, like in the end, the thing that lawmakers should consider, I think, is that the more you take away the accuracy, like marketers will always try to find ways to still reach those audiences, and it's going to be tricky where if you make it so bad that people go, for example, to direct email again, or they're going to figure out what the mobile numbers are of these people, are just and they're just going to put it in front of them like that. Like, so there needs to be a balance between what is good for the brands and what is good for the people, and then you never have those extreme things that are even worse than what it is today.
I also don't think it's a hot take that very few people will actually pay for that ad-free subscription that Instagram will offer, right? So, or like Meta in general. So let's say it's $9. I think a lot of people actually find it really helpful when they feel they need new clothing or whatever, that they get the
Yes.
ad that they actually um, like, that they see things that they actually might buy, and paying whatever I think is $9, maybe a bit less, to remove those is probably not something a lot of people will prefer. However, I do get the sense with YouTube, for example, a lot of people find it annoying just because you can't really skip it. If I'm scrolling on Facebook or Instagram, you can just scroll past certain things. But with YouTube, maybe I'm forced to watch 2 times 30 seconds of something that I actually might not want to see. So
Yeah, I think there's also a play there to make for advertiser to just make less annoying ads, right? So on YouTube, because it's unskippable, you see like this, you see a lot of people using a similar template script, which is kind of annoying and very, I mean, it's really interrupting, right? Where I mean, if you're just very relevant for your audience, you don't need to be very interruptive to get the point across. And so I think there's a big lesson as well for advertisers that they can do way better in making their ads way more fun and easy
yes.
to digest, so it's not so annoying, even if it's unskippable.
I think the ironic thing here is, especially for the people that listen and can relate to like the marketing field, that specific field is probably the most annoying field as well. So a lot of people really like the opposite of fun or engaging, and more like forcing their sales message right in your face. So I think that that's an interesting take, and I'm curious to see how the future evolves. Do you have like any final thoughts on this specific topic? Um, Maybe in terms of a vision, prediction, hot take.
uh, Not really. I think it would be good for the industry. It would be, I mean, especially in what we do, right? So in the education space where there's a lot of like high ticket, there's a lot of like higher education degrees that are costing like $100,000. There's a lot of courses that go for several thousands, right? To make the purchase. For for all these companies, they really need to stop with just a direct response approach, and they should really live the zero click or whatever you want to call it approach, because it will just work way better for them. And yes, management will not be happy with it right away. You have to have some difficult conversations. But for all the purchases that are multiple thousands or like hundred thousands of dollars to make that, to figure that out, there is no lead generation play that you should be making right away. And it's all about educating, entertaining these people on the platforms. And then when they have interest, when they are ready to make that step, they will come to you, and not vice versa. So you pull them in and you don't push them in. Yeah.